Welcome to Week 3 of the CharlottePreps.tv High School Football Report, powered by Ortho Carolina. I'm Tripp Roakes, and I'm here today with Tim Winters, and we're going to tell you all about the big games from last week, look ahead to next week, and tell you what the new Ortho 8 is. Tim, I know you had your eyes, just like a lot of people did, on the big-time matchup down in South Carolina this weekend.
Yeah, it was a clash of two Carolina high school titans, the Mallard Creek Mavericks, coming out back-to-back state champions against Burns, South Carolina. That school has won 11 South Carolina state championships. And the Burns Rebels didn't waste any time welcoming the Mavericks to their home. The Rebels scored on their first three offensive plays, 3 long touchdown passes that shocked the visiting Mavs 21-0. The Mavs used the break to regroup, and early in the second quarter, the Creeks quarterback James Smith scrambled for this 13-yard touchdown to cut the lead 21-7. Smith finished with 100 yards rushing and 2 TDs and 186 yards in the air and 1 touchdown. Mallard Creek fought their way back, and things looked real good for them in the game's closing minute. With 27 seconds left to play, Smith hits Ryan Jones for 31 yards and the TD to put Mallard Creek within 1 point at 28-27. Smith runs in the 2-point conversion and Creeks up 29-28 with less than a minute to play. With little time left on the clock on the ensuing kickoff, special teams play did Mallard Creek in. Burns returns the kickoff to Mallard Creek's 26 that led to the go-ahead field goal to put Burns back on top 31-29. And a penalty on Burns set up an untimed down for a field goal attempt 35 yards out. Mallard Creek kicking the ball in very wet conditions. It gets blocked. Burns holds on to win a classic 31-29 in South Carolina. And Tripp, you were at the Ardrey-Kell game, 2 big rivals, Marvin Ridge at Ardrey-Kell. Tell us about it.
Really an early season matchup between two teams that are so closely intertwined. They shop at the same places. They go to the same restaurants. These kids know each other really well, and it was time to get it on Friday night. The Ardrey-Kell Knights offense struck early and often on their home field Friday night. While rushing to get ahead of imminent storms, Ardrey-Kell opened the offense with the first play of the game going 65 yards in the air from Bryce McGinley to Jalen Irwin. A quick 7-0 lead grew rapidly as McGinley ran for the next 2 touchdowns and a 21-0 Knights lead. A fake punt by Ardrey-Kell led to Cameron Bauer racing 65 yards to the end zone, and the route was on. By the time the lead reached 34-0, the Storms rolled in and play was stopped. The stadiums were cleared, as they were in most parts of the area. Once the delay was complete, the route continued with McGinley finding Cameron Tully for a 42-0 lead. For Marvin Ridge, rising star Caleb Duvall was a huge positive for the Mavericks. He finished the game with 150 yards. This young man is going to be very special as the Mavericks continue to grow and form a stronger rhythm later in the season. Before closing this one out, let's recognize Kirk Augustus, who returned to kickoff 28 yards for the last score of the game for Ardrey-Kell. The Knights will now move ahead to play Huff in a premier matchup next week, and the Mavericks will look to place a win on the board against Providence Day School. And Tim, I know you were a big-time busy guy on Saturday. You had a triple header of action at Monroe, and probably the premier game was that Weddington-Charlotte Christian game.
Absolutely. 2 top-notch defenses. The game started at 4 o'clock, so it was a hot afternoon at Monroe Stadium in the first-ever Union Power Cooperative Gridiron Clash. Christian came into the game not surrendering a touchdown in their first 2 games, but after a 5-minute march down the field, Weddington quarterback Grayson Willingham found Mark Tayulu in the end zone for a 21-yard touchdown connection. And just like that, the Weddington Warriors were up 7-0. Weddington's defense, no slouch either, put the clamps down on the first half, holding Christian to just 2 first downs and only 29 yards in 16 plays. On the other hand, the Warriors' offense managed 12 first-half first downs, covering 159 yards on 39 plays. 2 Keith Duncan field goals put Weddington up at the half, 13-0. Christian's offense made some halftime adjustments, but it was too little, too late. Here, Jonathan Turley hits Jonathan Durham on this short 2-yard touchdown pass, but Weddington went on to win 16-6. Very impressive win for the Weddington Warriors at Monroe Stadium on Saturday afternoon. And Tripp, you had the big game, Charlotte Catholic against Country Day for the Cook Cup.
Hard to believe those two teams prior to Friday night had met 54 times. It's always a huge event, always a ton of people, way more people there than they had seats for, an incredible environment, and those two teams got it on and got it on early. The 55th meeting of the Cook Cup turned into an uncharacteristic blowout with Charlotte Catholic winning 42-0. The Cougars were led by all-everything running back Jared Anderson. The speedy and elusive runner found the end zone 4 times, including a 42-yard pass from quarterback John Walton. As we have seen all season, the Catholic defense was in complete control. Very few positive plays were allowed as the Cougar linemen and linebackers completely controlled the game. Country Day mustered only 15 yards for the entire game. The 2-0 Cougars have not been scored upon this season. In addition to the running play of Jared Anderson, John Walton completed 4 passes for 76 yards as the Cougars finally turned the fire off midway into the second half. Tim, we have a ton of changes coming up in the Ortho 8. Why don't you tell us how it landed, our view of the top 8 teams in the greater Charlotte area?
Yeah, big shakeup this week, making their entry first time in at number 8, the Ardrey-Kell Knights at 2-1. Number 7, South Meck with their big win against Porter Ridge over the weekend. They're at 3-0. The Huff Huskies coming into the season 3-0 in the number 6 spot. The Butler Bulldogs at 2-1 come in at number 5. The Weddington Warriors with their big statement win on Saturday afternoon against Charlotte Christian at 3-0 coming in at number 4. Charlotte Catholic with their shutout victory against Country Day in the number 3 spot at 3-0. And Mallard Creek falls out of the number 1 spot with their loss to Burns in South Carolina on Friday night. They're at 2-1. And moving into the number 1 slot this week, the Vance Cougars with their impressive win on the road up in Northern Virginia at George Washington High School. They are up at 3-0.
Towards week 4 of the high school football season. We've got our number 1 team in action, Tim. Tell us who they're going to be facing.
Yeah, the Vance Cougars and Aaron Brand, never looking to shy away from really strengthening his team come conference play. They're playing South Point Rock Hill on Friday night. Should be a tough matchup, another good test for the Vance Cougars. And then you have a big game in Union County, the 2 top teams, the Weddington Warriors hosting the Monroe Redhawks. Monroe coming in at 3-0, Weddington at 3-0. Both teams with dynamic offenses and really tough defenses. Should be a big night of football in Union County on Friday night. And Tripp, you have 2 big games as well.
Well, I think you really got to look at that Ardrey-Kell Huff game. Ardrey-Kell is going to travel north to play a school that is really identical to them. A lot of the same type success that Ardrey-Kell has, Huff also has in the same sport. So I think that'll be a really good matchup. Then you've also got to look forward to what's going to happen at South Meck with the annual Patriotism Bowl. They're going to host Myers Park in what should be a very good football game between 2 teams that really are on the rise, looking to move forward and see if South Meck can go to 4-0 or if Myers Park can stop their win streak. Yeah, we've got a lot of exciting football coming up next week, and that's going to do it here for us from the Charlotte High School Football Report, powered by Ortho Carolina. So Tim and I, once again, send out our challenge. Friday night, probably have beautiful weather. Get out there and support all the folks you go to school with, the folks in your area, and just enjoy high school football season with your entire family. Thanks for joining us. Have a great week.